The city was alive, buzzing with its usual energy. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the looming threat. But something was different. A darkness had crept in, a fear that clung to the night. The once vibrant streets now felt ominous and foreboding as the sun dipped below the horizon. Whispers of a stalker, someone watching, someone listening, began to circulate. The air was thick with unease, and every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat. No one knew who it was, this phantom lurking in the shadows. The anonymity of the stalker only added to the terror, making everyone a suspect and a potential victim. But one thing was certain, no one was safe. The fear was palpable, and it spread like wildfire through the community. The year was 2007, a time when the world was on the cusp of a technological revolution. Technology was advancing at a dizzying pace, cell phones becoming commonplace. These devices, once a luxury, were now an integral part of daily life. But this technological marvel, meant to connect people, was now a weapon in the hands of a predator. The very tool designed to bring people closer was being used to instill fear and paranoia. The Phone Stalker, as they came to be known, used this technology to terrorize their victims, turning their lives upside down. The sense of security that cell phones provided was shattered. The first whispers started subtly. A strange call here, an eerie message there. It was easy to dismiss at first. Strange hang-up calls in the dead of night. The silence on the other end of the line was more terrifying than any words could be. Voices whispering on the other end of the line, just out of reach. The feeling of being watched, of being hunted, was inescapable. People brushed it off as pranks, wrong numbers, anything but the terrifying truth that was beginning to unfold. Denial was a comforting lie, but the calls persisted, escalating in their frequency and intensity. What started as an occasional disturbance became a relentless onslaught. Fear, like a virus, began to spread through the city. It infected every corner, every home, every heart. No one knew who would be next. The uncertainty was crippling, and trust became a rare commodity. The once comforting ring of a phone now sent shivers down their spines. Each ring was a reminder of the unseen menace lurking in the shadows. The Phone Stalker was out there, hidden in plain sight, and the city held its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. The sense of impending doom was inescapable, and the city was gripped by a fear that refused to let go. At first, the police dismissed the reports. Prank calls, they said. Teenage mischief. But the calls continued, growing bolder, more menacing. The victims, mostly women, reported disturbing details. The voice on the other end knew their names, their routines, their deepest fears. This was no prank. This was something far more sinister. The news spread like wildfire. Local newspapers ran headlines about the mysterious stalker, fueling the city's growing paranoia. People became afraid to answer their phones, their once indispensable devices now symbols of fear and vulnerability. The city, once vibrant and alive, was now shrouded in suspicion and dread. The police, facing mounting pressure from the public and the media, finally took notice. A special task force was assembled, tasked with hunting down the elusive Phone Stalker. But the stalker was always one step ahead, disappearing into the digital ether, leaving behind a trail of fear and unanswered questions. The city held its breath, caught in a macabre game of cat and mouse. The Phone Stalker, a phantom in the digital night, was playing with their lives, toying with their sense of security. And the city watched, helpless, as the nightmare unfolded before their eyes. The Phone Stalker thrived on the fear they instilled, feeding off the anxiety that rippled through the community. Their methods became more brazen. What started as unsettling messages turned into a relentless barrage of threats. Victims reported receiving text messages, their phones flooded with threats, their every move tracked and monitored. The stalker was playing a game, and the city was the playing field. Every street, every alley became a potential trap. One incident sent chills down everyone's spines, a stark reminder that no one was safe. A young woman walking home alone received a call from the stalker. Her heart raced as she answered. The voice, a chilling whisper, described her every move. It was as if the stalker was right there with her. She felt trapped like a mouse in a maze with no way out. The police turned to the public for help, releasing a blurry image from a security camera. The city, united in fear, responded with tips, each one leading to a dead end. The phone stalker was a ghost, a phantom operating in the shadows, always one step ahead. The city, once a symbol of progress, was now held hostage by fear, its citizens living in dread. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they began to piece together a chilling pattern. The phone stalker didn't choose their victims randomly. They preyed on women, specifically those who lived alone or seemed vulnerable. The stalker would meticulously study their targets, learning their routines, their habits, their fears, before making contact. The calls often started innocently enough, the stalker posing as a telemarketer, a surveyor, or even a concerned friend. They would engage their victims in seemingly harmless conversations, gleaning personal information, all the while weaving a web of manipulation and control. But as the calls progressed, the mask would slip. The stalker's tone would shift, their voice turning menacing, threatening. They would reveal their knowledge of the victim's life, their movements, their secrets, instilling a deep sense of fear and vulnerability. The victims, trapped in their own homes, felt their safe spaces violated, their lives turned upside down. The police, determined to catch the stalker, set up wiretaps, analyzed phone records, and interviewed countless individuals. But the stalker seemed to be always one step ahead, using burner phones, public payphones, and other tactics to avoid detection. The city watched, a collective gasp of fear and anticipation hanging in the air. The stalker's methods were not only invasive, but also psychologically tormenting. Victims reported feeling watched at all times, their every move seemingly monitored. Some even changed their daily routines, hoping to shake off the invisible eyes that seemed to follow them everywhere. The stalker thrived on this fear, feeding off the anxiety and distress they caused. The police, meanwhile, were under immense pressure. The media had picked up the story, and the public demanded answers. Community meetings were held, and safety tips were circulated, but the sense of dread remained. The stalker's ability to remain elusive only added to the terror. The investigation team worked around the clock, hoping for a breakthrough. They knew that catching the stalker was not just about ending the calls. It was about restoring a sense of security to a community held hostage by fear. The stakes were high, and the clock was ticking. As days turned into weeks, the tension grew. The stalker's calls became more frequent, more aggressive. The city was on edge, waiting for the moment when the terror would finally end. But for now, the pattern of terror continued, an ominous shadow over the lives of many. The investigation into the phone stalker case was complex and frustrating. The stalker seemed to be a master of evasion, using burner phones, public Wi-Fi, and other tactics to cover their tracks. The police, despite their best efforts, were always one step behind, their frustration mounting with each passing day. Forensic experts worked tirelessly, analyzing voice recordings, tracing calls, and trying to glean any piece of information that could lead them to the stalker. They pored over phone records, looking for patterns, connections, anything that could break the case wide open. But the stalker was a digital ghost, their presence felt but never truly grasped. The investigation took a toll on the officers involved. They worked long hours, fueled by coffee and determination. Their personal lives put on hold as they dedicated themselves to catching the stalker. The weight of the city's fear rested on their shoulders, the pressure to deliver justice immense. Despite the challenges, the police remained resolute. They knew the stalker was out there, somewhere in the sprawling metropolis, hiding in plain sight. And they vowed to not rest until the stalker was brought to justice, their reign of terror brought to an end.